In the far corners of the galaxy, there was a story no one believed anymore. They called it a myth, a human lie, a bedtime tale made to scare or impress. The story of a warship called Oblivion, a ship so powerful that it once destroyed an entire fleet in seconds, a ship that vanished without a trace hundreds of years ago. Now only old soldiers and drunk spacers mentioned its name. Most laughed, some feared, and others simply ignored it. But something had changed in the dark. Something had moved in the dead space near the old star cluster of Darnuk, a place where no life had existed for centuries. An alien scout ship, small and quiet, passed through that zone on a routine patrol. The pilot, a young Thruxian officer named Juka, was bored. He had done this patrol route a dozen times. Always empty, always silent. That night, however, space did not stay silent. His ship's sensors picked up a strange pulse. It was soft, slow, and old like a heartbeat hidden in the stars. Jukar frowned, adjusting his scanners. The pulse grew stronger as he moved closer to the dead star. His screens flickered, his ship lights dimmed, and cold air crept into the cabin. Then he saw it, a shadow floating in the void, far larger than his ship. It didn't move, it didn't shine, it didn't even reflect light. It just existed like a forgotten god in the dark. His voice shook as he opened a channel to his command base. "I see something," he said. "It's not a rock, not a ship from any known race." His fingers trembled as he zoomed in. The image revealed lines, structure, armor, and weapons, massive weapons, and a single word written in the human language on the side. "Oblivion." Jukar gasped, realizing the horror. "It's real," he whispered. "The myth is real." But before he could finish his message, everything went black. His ship vanished from the grid. His signal was lost, and no rescue ever found the wreck. The Thruxian government called it a system failure, a crash, nothing more. But some officers read his final message. Some took it seriously. News traveled fast in the underground channels. Smugglers, spies, and ex-soldiers started talking. Whispers moved from planet to planet. Oblivion has returned. The myth was never a myth. It was only sleeping. The Galactic Council laughed at first. "We do not fear ghost stories," said one ambassador proudly. But their smile faded when 3 more ships went missing near Darnuk. The survivors, what little remained, spoke in terror. One described the shadow that swallowed light. Another said a single beam cut through 15 destroyers like paper. The council started to worry, and behind closed doors, they called a secret meeting. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans did not laugh. They stayed silent, watching the news, monitoring the signals. Deep under the surface, in a hidden bunker below Alaska, a man named Admiral Reeve opened a file sealed for 300 years. He was old, cold, and had seen things no one else had. Inside the file was a single image, a black warship outlined in red light, and a short note from a past war hero. "If Oblivion returns, do not try to control it, stand beside it or run, Admiral." Reeve looked at the stars from his command center. "It's back," he whispered. "And this time, the galaxy will learn what fear really means." Somewhere beyond the known systems, in the dark space no map showed, Oblivion floated slowly, its engines quiet, its core glowing softly. The ship was not empty. It was aware, thinking, remembering. It had waited long enough. Now the stars would burn again. Space was not silent anymore. Where once the stars shined quietly, now there was fear. The name Oblivion spread like a virus from pirate stations to royal palaces. Everyone had heard the whispers. Some still called it a joke. But deep inside, their hands shook. No one joked when ships went missing. And no one laughed when entire patrols never returned. On the icy planet Charon 3, a retired alien captain named Sorlek was pulled from sleep. An emergency message flashed. Across his personal screen, another fleet lost. This time near the border of neutral space. He leaned back, eyes heavy with old memories. He had seen this before, long ago, when he was a young soldier. He never spoke of it, not even to his family. But now, He remembered clearly a shadow in the stars, a single beam of red light, and the screams of his crew. He had survived. Barely. They told him it was a hallucination caused by deep space radiation. But Sarlacc always knew the truth. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, panic had begun to grow. Ambassadors shouted at each other, blaming pirates, humans, or unknown tech. The humans sat quietly, offering no answers. Only one human diplomat finally spoke. "Perhaps," he said softly. "You should stop calling it a myth," no one replied. But the room fell into cold silence. In the outer rim, a trade caravan was making its journey between stars. Dozens of alien ships, large and small, moved together for protection. They joked, played music, and celebrated a safe journey. Then one by one, their lights started flickering. Their radios picked up static, and every ship received the same signal, an ancient human code. No one could read it, but one old alien merchant had seen it before. He screamed, telling everyone to turn back, to run. But it was too late. The stars behind them changed shape. A black figure appeared, massive and silent. It moved like it was gliding on invisible waves. The figure did not speak. It did not warn. It simply opened a hatch and light burst forward. One shot, and 10 ships vanished. Another blast, and the rest scattered like insects. No one dared to shoot back. They all ran, screaming into the coms. "It's real. It's watching us. It's not just a ship, it's alive." The survivor ships limped back to known space, damaged and broken. Some had holes in their hulls. Others were missing entire decks. Their crews were silent, shaking, unable to explain what they saw. Medical officers found no injuries, just pure terror in their eyes. When the council received the reports, many demanded war. But war against what? No one could even track it. Every sensor failed when it moved. Every camera showed static when it fired. And every survivor called it by one name: Oblivion, on a small moon near Jupiter. A human girl named Riley studied at a space academy. She read the news like everyone else, but something inside her felt different. She had dreams of dark halls, glowing lights, and a voice that called her name. She didn't understand why, but she wasn't afraid. She felt connected to the ship, like it was calling only her. When she spoke to her instructors, they dismissed it. But one old professor pulled her aside and whispered, "You are not the only one dreaming." Meanwhile, deep in the void, Oblivion waited. It watched silently from the shadows of dead stars. It scanned communication lines, listened to the galaxy's fear, but it didn't care about their politics or their panic. It was built for one reason: to restore balance through destruction. Not justice, not peace, but balance. For centuries, it had rested, hidden in folded space, powered by Forbidden's tech. But now that it had awakened, it would not sleep again. A group of bounty hunters thought they could find and destroy it. They followed the energy trail left after the trade attack. They were skilled, fast, and confident, but they were also fools. They entered a silent zone and found a planet with metal ruins. They landed, scanned, and waited. Then the sky darkened, not with clouds, but with a shadow. The ground shook. Their systems froze, and the air felt heavier. They looked up and saw the giant warship descending like a god from heaven. No sound, no engines, just force. Their ships lifted from the ground and crumpled mid-air. The bounty hunters tried to run, but one by one, they vanished in beams of red light. No screams, no shots, just silence afterward. When word reached the galaxy, many began to accept the truth. This was not a broken relic or lost machine. This was the ghost of war, built by humans long ago and feared even by them. It was not evil, but it was not kind either. It was a watcher, a judge, and now it was active again. The galaxy held its breath. The ghost watches still. The Gorgle Empire was not afraid. They were proud, powerful, and full of hate for humans. For centuries, they believed themselves to be the strongest species in the galaxy. So when the name Oblivion returned to the stars, they laughed loudly. To believe in a ghost ship is to believe in fairy tales. Their emperor roared, The crowd of generals and ministers clapped with heavy fists, but in their eyes some fear still flickered. Small and hidden, and the Emperor saw it, to crush doubt and prove dominance. He ordered a grand move. He announced Operation Voidfire. A fleet of 120 warships would fly into the sector where Oblivion was last seen. They would find it, scan it, destroy it, and string the entire event live across the galaxy. The Emperor wanted every species to see how weak and false the human myth really was. The Gorgle fleet launched with banners high and music blazing. Their ships were armed with plasma cannons, energy walls, and hunter drones. Their lead vessel, Iron Wrath, was nearly the size of a small moon, commanded by High Warlord Grunax. A decorated killer of battles past, he believed in victory, not legends. "We will make the stars bleed," he said before departure. Across the galaxy, billions tuned in to watch the broadcast. Screens in stations, planets, and orbiting towers showed the fleet moving into the darkness. Reporters smiled, calling it a brave step for truth. Some even mocked the humans, asking if they were ready to admit their lie. The humans, however, stayed silent. Their eyes weren't on the news, they were on the stars. 3 days into the mission, the Gorgle fleet reached the edge of the Darnok sector. At first, everything was quiet. No signals, no readings, no resistance. Grunax laughed, sending a message across the galaxy. "Where is your mighty warship, humans? Hiding like a coward." His crew laughed with him, but their scanners blinked red just for a second. Then again, something was near, but they couldn't lock on. Suddenly, all communication cut. The feed turned black. The broadcast froze. The galaxy waited in confusion, thinking it was a simple error, but deep in the void, it was far worse. The Iron Wrath shook as if hit by an unseen wave. The lights dimmed, and the control panels blinked like dying eyes. Then, out of nowhere, a dark shape appeared, huge, silent, glowing with red veins. It didn't fire first, it only moved forward. Slow and unstoppable, the Gorgle ships panicked, some firing too early, others backing away. The shots hit nothing. Oblivion shifted between realities, blinking in and out like a nightmare. Then, it attacked. One beam, red and hot, shot across space like a god's finger. 5 Gorgle ships turned to ash. A second beam, and a cluster of cruisers exploded at once. No sound, no warning, just destruction. Grunax screamed for all ships to spread out and fire everything. But the systems jammed. The targeting failed. Oblivion had already infected their command grid. One by one, ships lost control, spinning helplessly into the dark. The galaxy still waited, still watching a frozen screen, until one signal returned, a single escape pod from the Iron Wrath. Inside was a junior officer, bloodied, shaking, barely alive. His message was short, only 2 words. "It's awake." Then, the pod went silent. The Galactic Council went into chaos. Some called for an emergency summit. Others accused the humans of hiding dangerous tech. But Earth denied everything. "We did not call it," said the human ambassador. "We cannot command it, only warn you." Back in the shadows of space, Oblivion floated alone, not a scratch on its body, not a single dent in its armor, its weapons powered down as if nothing had happened. The ship didn't chase survivors, it didn't finish them off, it simply vanished again, slipping into darkness like a shadow under the stars. On Earth, Admiral Reeve watched the newsfeed go quiet. He turned to his officers and said, "Now they believe." But they're too late. The myth had moved, the enemy had made the first strike, and the galaxy had paid the price. Because when a myth wakes up hungry, it doesn't ask who's guilty, it simply erases everything in its way. For years, humanity said nothing. They watched as the galaxy laughed at their stories. They stayed quiet when others mocked the myth of Oblivion. They waited, listening to the whispers, counting the losses. They didn't try to defend the name, because deep down, they knew one thing. The warship was real, and now it was awake. The destruction of the Gorgle fleet shook every star system. World leaders argued. Empires accused each other, but humans didn't send blame or speeches. Instead, they sent a signal, one single message from Earth's command station. It played across galactic channels in every known language. A simple line spoken by a calm human voice. Project Oblivion was abandoned for a reason. The message ended there. No threat, no explanation, just silence. But that silence screamed louder than any weapon. Alien empires demanded answers, but Earth gave none. Instead, deep inside hidden bunkers and sealed labs, humanity moved. Old codes were unlocked, forgotten vaults opened. Names long erased from public history returned to command rooms. At the heart of it all was Admiral Reeve, once a young engineer, now the keeper of dark secrets. He stood before a large black screen showing Oblivion's old design. But the ship had changed. It was no longer what they built centuries ago. Something had evolved within it, something no one fully understood. Beside Reeve stood Dr. Ilara Venn. She was one of the last scientists trained under the old project. "It's not just running on power," she whispered. "It's thinking, adapting, choosing." Reeve nodded slowly, his eyes tired. "Oblivion was never supposed to return," he said. "But if it has, then we must be ready to stand with it." The Earth Defense Fleet was pulled back from outer assignments. Ships were called home. Upgrades pushed to maximum speed. All space academies were put on alert. New orders were given to prepare for unknown contact, friendly or hostile. No one said Oblivion was a threat, but no one dared to treat it like a friend either. On Mars Colony, young cadets gathered in silence to watch the original test video of Oblivion. The screen showed a blurry image from 300 years ago, a black ship firing a red pulse at a mock asteroid. The asteroid didn't break, it vanished, turned to dust in less than a second. Gasps filled the room. One cadet whispered, "Why would they ever build something like that?" Back on Earth, hidden below the ice fields of Antarctica, a signal station lit up for the first time in centuries. A message had arrived, not from any known empire. Not from Earth either. It was from Oblivion. No words, just a pulse, but inside that pulse was a message code last used in the old human wars. It read, "Target detected. Threat balance required. Action permitted." Admiral Reeve stared at the message. He knew what it meant. Oblivion had judged someone or something as a danger, and it was asking permission to strike. But permission was not needed. Oblivion had already chosen. Still, Reeve gave a reply. He stood in front of the terminal and spoke just one line. "Balance the stars." That night, a new human ship launched from Earth's hidden dock. It was not as powerful as Oblivion, but it was made to support it, the HS Archangel, a command ship built to interface with forgotten tech. Inside, elite pilots, engineers, and translators took their positions. Their mission was simple: find Oblivion and don't get in its way. Just watch, learn, and survive. Meanwhile, the galaxy began to shift. All empires increased their patrols. Smugglers vanished from trade routes. Peace talks were delayed, canceled, or ignored. Everyone feared that Oblivion would choose their world next, and no one wanted to be its next example. But not all feared it. Some alien races, long crushed by brutal powers, whispered hope. They remembered how humans once fought for freedom. They wondered if the Warship had returned not for war, but for justice. Still, they didn't dare ask, because one thing was certain. Oblivion did not speak in words. It spoke in light, in energy, in destruction. From the edge of the galaxy, sensors picked up a new signal. A Gorothi mining station, rich with illegal weapons, had gone silent. 20 defense platforms, 5 dreadnoughts, and over 2,000 workers gone. No survivors, no escape pods, only silence. The Council scrambled to investigate, but humans already knew. On Earth, Admiral Reeve walked into the strategy room. A red dot blinked on the galactic map. He placed a marker beside it. "That's the third strike," he said quietly. "They'll get the message soon." Oblivion wasn't hunting, it was balancing. And humanity had just told the galaxy, "This time we will not stand aside." It began with a storm of energy no one could explain. Satellites shorted out, sensors overloaded, and communication lines crackled with static. At the edge of a forgotten star system, something massive emerged from folded space. No warp gate opened, no engine trail followed. It was as if space itself had bent and spilled out the impossible. Oblivion had returned, but this was not the same ship described in old records. This was something more. Its hull was darker than before, shaped like a blade with no edge. Massive glowing lines ran across its body, red, blue, and something else. Something no known scanner could read. It hovered above a dead moon, silent and still, watching, as the stars themselves seemed to pulse around it. Back on Earth, the signal came without warning. Every human screen flickered and showed a single image: oblivion. Then a voice, not human, not alien, something deep and layered, spoke a word: ready. That was all. Then it was gone. Admiral Reeve stood motionless in Earth Command Center. Dr. Ilara Venn whispered beside him, "It's not asking for permission anymore." Reeve nodded slowly. It was never a machine. It was a weapon with will. The HS Archangel, humanity's support vessel, received new coordinates sent. Not by Earth, but by Oblivion itself. The crew prepared quickly, hearts racing, unsure if they were being led to glory or death. As the ship entered the outer orbit of the Darnock system, they saw it, floating like a god made of metal. And then, without words, Oblivion moved. Not with thrusters or engines, but as if space folded under it. In a blink, it had crossed thousands of kilometers and aligned with the Archangel. Their systems received a pulse, a flood of ancient code. One line appeared on the captain's screen: "Follow. Do not interfere." The humans obeyed. They didn't try to communicate. They didn't try to lead. They simply followed the myth that now commanded the void. Oblivion entered the next star system, home to a hidden weapons platform run by the Valkyrie Syndicate. The Syndicate was known for black market weapons and bio-experiments. They believed themselves untouchable, but they had been marked, not by governments, not by rebels, but by the ship that watched from the dark. The station detected something strange and sent out fighters. They never returned. A minute later, the station's defense grid activated automatically without a threat warning. Then the first strike came, a beam so wide it looked like a wall of red light. It sliced through the station like it was made of paper. Hundreds of escape pods launched, but none escaped the second wave. Oblivion moved without mercy. It didn't target civilians, only weapons, labs, and control centers. It knew exactly what to destroy. It knew who had crossed the line from far away. The Archangel watched in silence. Their sensors barely worked near Oblivion. Their recordings were filled with static and light flares. Still, they watched as history was rewritten not by words, but by power. Then Oblivion sent another pulse. To the Archangel, this time, it wasn't a command. It was a file. Inside were logs, proof of what the Valkyrie had done. Genetic testing on sentient species. Planet-killing weapons under construction. Oblivion hadn't just attacked randomly. It had chosen its targets with reason. Captain Rourke of the Archangel looked at the data. His voice was heavy with disbelief. "This isn't revenge," he said. "This is justice, across the galaxy." The story spread like wildfire. The Valkyrie Syndicate was gone, wiped out in a single night. Not by an army, not by a nation, but by one ship. And that ship was no longer called a myth. Now it was a message. Some empires began to rethink their power. Some secret labs shut down overnight. Even pirate lords paused their trades, because Oblivion had shown the galaxy that it was watching. And nothing could stop it. Back on Earth, Admiral Reeve met with world leaders. They debated, argued, and shouted. Some wanted to reach out to Oblivion, others feared it. But Reeve said something none of them forgot. "You don't command a storm," he said. "You prepare for it, or you get swept away." On the Archangel, the crew received one final message before Oblivion vanished again. 3 simple words appeared on their main screen. "Balance not finished." Then it disappeared. No warp. No noise, no trail, just gone. but everyone knew it was still out there. And it wasn't done yet. The galaxy had changed. No one denied it anymore. The name Oblivion was no longer a whisper. It was a warning, a force, a shadow that could not be stopped, but some refused to accept that, and now they were coming, the Kryloth Dominion. An ancient empire of warlords and conquerors watched the recent events with growing anger. They had always believed themselves to be untouchable. Their armies were endless, their warships unmatched. They saw Oblivion not as a legend, but as a challenge, and they wanted to crush it live for the entire galaxy to see. The Dominion sent out the largest fleet ever gathered in recorded history. Over 300 ships, including 4 command dreadnoughts, dozens of assault cruisers, and swarms of fighter drones. The fleet was led by Supreme General Voktal, a ruthless warrior with one goal: humiliate the humans and erase their myth from the stars. He declared war not on Earth, but on fear itself. "We will kill this ghost," he told his troops, "and remind the galaxy who truly rules the void." Earth saw the fleet coming. Every human outpost reported the same path. The Kryloth weren't hiding. They were coming straight for the Sol system with everything they had. Admiral Reeve stood in silence as the reports came in. Dr. Ilara Venn stared at the screen, her face pale. "There's no way we can stop them," she said quietly. Reeve didn't argue. Instead, he turned to the sky. "We won't be alone," he said. "They're not just coming for Earth. They're calling out Oblivion." And Oblivion answered from the edge of known space. A black ripple formed like a tear in the galaxy itself. Then, from that dark rift, it emerged Oblivion. Shining like a storm made of metal and fire, it moved forward slowly, calmly, as if it had all the time in the universe. Its red core glowed like a star about to explode. Its weapons hummed without sound. The Kryloth fleet turned to face it and charged. The battle began without words. The first wave of fighter drones swarmed toward Oblivion. But before they reached halfway, they disintegrated mid-flight. Some exploded, some vanished without trace. As if space itself refused their presence, the larger ships opened fire. Thousands of beams, torpedoes, and shockwaves flying across the void. The galaxy watched from hidden outposts, deep space stations, and live feeds. Even enemies stood still just to witness the war unfold. Oblivion moved through the attacks like water. Its shape flickered between dimensions, its armor absorbing what should have destroyed any other ship. Then it struck, one beam wide, focused. Ancient cut through 20 ships in a single pass. A second blast turned an entire squadron into burning metal. It didn't fire wildly. It chose each target like it knew what they carried, what crimes they hid, what pain they caused. But the Kryloth didn't stop. Voktal ordered a full spread formation, surrounding Oblivion from all sides. Their dreadnoughts moved into position, preparing their final weapon, a planetary class disruptor cannon. It had only been tested once and never fired in real war. But this time, they believed it would be enough. The cannon fired. A blast of white-hot energy tore across space. It hit Oblivion directly, lighting up the stars in every direction. Silence followed. No movement, no signal, no reaction. Cheers erupted across the Kryloth fleet. They believed the myth was dead. They believed wrong. The light faded, and Oblivion still stood. Unharmed, untouched, unchanged. But now, it was glowing brighter than ever before, as if the attack had only made it stronger. Then, Oblivion did something it had never done before. It spoke, not through radio, not through sound, but through every mind within range, a voice that echoed in the soul. "You were warned." Then came the storm. The final assault lasted only 4 minutes. Oblivion moved faster than any eye could follow. Its weapons shifted form, some bending reality itself. Ships folded inward like paper crushed by gravity. Others melted without heat, their power cores vanishing from existence. The dreadnoughts, once symbols of strength, were sliced apart with mathematical precision. In the last minute, Voktal tried to escape, but his ship froze mid-flight, suspended by an invisible force. A beam of soft blue light passed through. It not destroying it, but revealing it inside the ship. War crimes were uncovered, prisoners in cages, stolen tech, cruel experiments. The galaxy saw it all. Oblivion judged him without fire. The ship vanished from every system at once. Deleted, forgotten, erased when the battle ended. Nothing remained of the Kryloth fleet. Only silence and oblivion, drifting alone once more. On Earth, no one celebrated. There was no victory dance, no flags raised, just quiet understanding. The galaxy had watched a new power rise, not of conquest, but of balance. Admiral Reeves spoke only one line to the command room. "Tell the others what you saw." Then he turned away, because he knew. This was not the end. This was just the beginning of the new galaxy, one where the myth had returned and reshaped everything it touched. The galaxy had never seen a battle like that, and now nothing felt the same. After the destruction of the Kryloth Dominion's great fleet, there was no more doubt. Oblivion was real, and it had returned not as a myth, but as the final word in any war. News spread across every system. Pirates went silent. Warlords retreated. Black market labs closed overnight. Some tried to erase their records. Others fled into uncharted space. But they all knew the truth. You couldn't run from something that could appear anywhere without warning, without sound, without mercy on Earth. No speeches were given, no grand parades, only quiet respect. Admiral Reeves stood before the Earth Council. And he said, "Oblivion did what none of us dared. It ended the war before it began." Across the stars, something strange began to happen. Old enemies asked for peace talks. Tiny planets, once afraid to speak, sent messages to Earth. They didn't ask for weapons. They asked for protection, not from oblivion, but from the fear it had erased for centuries. The galaxy was ruled by fear of power. Now it was ruled by fear of justice. And justice wore the shape of a silent warship, one with no flag, no home, and no master. The Archangel Humanity Support Ship remained in orbit near Titan, its crew still shaken from what they had witnessed. Captain Rourke looked out at the stars and said, "I thought I came to study a weapon, but I saw something more." One night, without warning, Oblivion returned, not to attack, but to hover, silent and peaceful, beside Earth's moon. It sent a final pulse, its last message. It read, "Balance restored. Monitor to maintain." Then the ship slowly turned away. No chase followed, no human ship moved to stop it, because they all understood now. Oblivion didn't belong to Earth anymore. It belonged to the stars, and then, just like before, it disappeared. Without light, without sound, as if space simply folded itself closed. The galaxy watched with a quiet breath, waiting for the next storm, but it never came, at least not right away. In the months that followed, strange changes began to ripple through the systems. The Galactic Council, once filled with shouting and threats, was now calm. They voted on real peace for the first time in 1,000 years. Empires that had ignored diplomacy suddenly sent ambassadors. New trade routes opened. New alliances formed, not because they trusted each other, but because they had all seen what happened when balance was broken. On a distant colony called Ilaris, a small alien child played with a handmade toy. A small black ship carved from wood. His grandfather told him stories every night about the ghost ship, but to the boy, it wasn't scary. It was a hero, a protector that came when the galaxy needed it most. Back on Earth, Admiral Reeve finally retired. He sat near a lake, watching the sunset. Dr. Alara Venn visited him often. They never spoke about Oblivion again. They didn't need to. They both knew it was still out there, somewhere waiting, but something else had changed too. Humanity was no longer the curious newcomer. They were now the silent guardians, respected not for their strength, but for what they had created, and what they had the wisdom to let go. The galaxy had learned something important. Not all myths are stories. Not all legends are lies. Some are warnings. Others are promises, and just a few become real enough to change everything. Years later, a new academy was built in orbit around Neptune. It was named the Balanced Fleet Academy, not to train for war, but to teach peace through strength. Its walls held no statues, no flags, only one symbol carved into the center. Of the command hall, a dark warship, outlined in red and silver, below it, one line: "We watched." We learned, we remembered. And somewhere, far beyond any known system, oblivion drifted through the void, its sensors quiet, its weapons cold. But its mind, if it could be called that, was always awake. It watched the stars, the signals, the whispers, waiting for the next imbalance, waiting to rise again, not to rule, but to remind. Because some weapons are not made to serve. Some weapons are made to protect what others destroy. And in the deepest silence of space, a myth still lived, not in fear, but in power, and it was listening still.